Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are settled now. Okay, so the last lecture was on the pectoral region. So, how many of you understood what is pectoral region? Which region is defined as the pectoral region, scapular region, axilla, and how our upper limb is holding by the side of the body? Can anyone of you explain? Upper anterior part of the thorax. What are the muscles that are included in the pectoral region? Not in chorus, anyone can stand up and you sit down. We have studied one goal, that is clavicle. So you all know the attachment of these muscles on the clavicle. So where does it attach on the clavicle? Pectoralis major, minor, minor, the next topic after the pectoral region is the mammary gland or the breast. So under your competency table, these are the contents you will be studying the mammary gland. It is a structure. Mammary gland is a gland under which what you should know about this gland is the location where it is located. What is the extent? Location means where it is located in the body, whether in the thorax region, upper limb region, abdomen region. If any structure comes to it, you will have to know where it is located. Then the extent. Extent you can tell only in relation to something. So here the mammary gland is located in the region of the thorax, right? So you can tell the relation, the extent within relation to the sternum, with the rib, with the vertebrae. That way, how you will tell the extent of any structure. Then the relations. The relations, that means what are the structures that are related to it. Related means what I said, like that are the structures that are relation to that gland. Then you have the changes in the mammary gland. We have 8 changes, so we'll be discussing about this particular topic, that is 8 changes in the mammary gland. Then for any area, you will be knowing the blood supply, that includes the arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic system, and what are the clinical anatomy of this structure. So first of all, a general about the mammary gland. The mammary gland is the feature of a mammal. So it is found in the mammals. In case of humans, it's only one mammary gland. In case of lower animals, there are multiple mammary glands are present. It is present in case of males and females both. But in case of males and the pre-pubertal stage, rudimentary only in the puberty and the gestational stage, these are overgrown. So this is the structure of the female breast where the skin has been removed. So after the removal of the skin, this yellow color thing is shown as a fat. Yellow is always demarcated as a fat, or you can show the yellow color for the nerve. So here this is the fat which is shown here. So fat, nipple, areola, and the underlying this you can see the muscle fibers. Muscle fibers are shown in the brown color. Now where is the mammary gland located? Mammary gland has a very peculiar feature that it is located in the superficial breakdown. So this underlies the skin and the superficial breakdown next to when you hold the direction of the mammary gland, not the breakdown. That means the direction of the this is happening between the superficial and the deep fascia. What is the deep fascia of this region known as? The deep fascia of this region is known as pectoral fascia. So above it is lying the mammary gland. Now, whole of the mammary tissue is lying in the superficial fascia. Only a part of it you can see is going through a foramen. It is piercing this mammary tissue of the meningioma. It is piercing the deep fascia, and this portion of the mammary tissue, this is called as axillary tail of stem. This is a very small meningioma of the mammary tissue which is going deep into the axilla. So it is not lying in the superficial fascia, it is lying beneath the what is axillary tail of stem and the foramen, or the area of the deep fascia that is pierced by this mammary gland is called as the foramen of Langer. So you should be clear with these two terms. What is axillary tail of stem? What is foramen of Langer? So axillary tail of stem is the mammary tissue that is going deep into the axilla, while the foramen of Langer is foramen of Langer is the area through which the mammary tissue is going to the axilla. That is called as the foramen of Langer. This is a similar picture. Now coming to the shape of the mammary gland. The mammary gland is variable in shape. It is hemispherical to conical, pyriform, pendulous or flat in shape. Now coming to the main thing, that is the extent. A vertical extent is there and a horizontal extent is there. So this will be the vertical extent. This is vertical extent. This will be the horizontal extent. So if we talk about the vertical extent, it is extending from the second to sixth rib. So we can tell you the vertical extent in relation to the rib because it is lying in front of the rib cage. Vertical extent from the second rib to the sixth rib, and this is the horizontal extent. So what is lying towards the midline is the sternum. Right? From the sternum, medial border of the sternum to the axilla. Now axilla you have anterior axillary line, mid axillary line, and anterior axillary line. So this is up to the mid axillary line. Vertical extent is 2 to 6 ribs, and the horizontal extent is lateral border of the sternum to the mid axillary line. Now what are the underlying tissue over which the mammary gland is lying? One is the sheath fascia. Underneath the sheath fascia you will find the muscles. You already know the muscles of the pectoral region. So the pectoral region muscles, that is pectoral major, minor, then serratus anterior and the external oblique of the abdomen. In case of pectoralis muscles, the minor muscles will be lying underneath the major muscles. So only the pectoralis major muscle is included in the underlying muscles of the mammary gland, which is the pectoralis major, serratus anterior and the external oblique. Can any one of you tell me the pectoralis major attachment? These clavicular part is visible. These are the fibers that are arising from the medial part of the clavicle and that is from the inferior surface. These are the clavicular fibers. Next fiber, these are the sternal fibers, and these all fibers they are converging towards the lateral lip of the bicipital groove, which is present on the uterus. This is the bicipital groove area and this is the lateral lip. This line which is demarcated here, this is the attachment of the pectoralis major onto the lateral lip of the bicipital groove. But can anyone tell me how these fibers are attaching onto the border of the intratubercular surface? Next is the serratus anterior muscle. What is the attachment of the serratus anterior muscle? They are attaching to the first to 8 minutes. So they are covering the anterior chest wall. Then is the external oblique muscle. External oblique muscle is the muscle of the abdomen. So the some fibers of the external oblique they are taking origin from the lower rib cage. So that is also forming the bed or the relation of the mammary gland. Now if you see here, this is the coronal section or a sagittal section. Sagittal section. And this one is the coronal. Or it's not a section, just that we have removed the skin from the overlying. So this is the sagittal section where you can see the mammary gland. After the mammary gland, you are seeing a light green area. And then you have a dark green line. So that dark green line is indicating the deep fascia and the light green is showing the loose areolar tissue. Now because of the presence of the loose areolar tissue, the mammary gland is freely mobile onto the chest wall. So what is the importance of knowing that it is freely movable because of the presence of loose areolar tissue? What is the clinical finding that you might find in case the patient presents to you for a mammary gland carcinoma? This will be adherent. So mammary glands will not be completely mobile. So this is one of the signs for checking the carcinoma of the breast. This is the loose areolar tissue and this is also called as the, for anatomical purpose, you should know it is called as the retromammary space. So this is the retromammary space. Behind the mammary gland, there is a loose areolar tissue and underneath that there is a pectoral fascia. Underneath this fascia you will find the pectoral division. After cutting the pectoral division, you will find the pectoral minor, subclavius muscle, and the fascia that is covering the muscle is the clavipectoral division. Just a revision of the points that we have done. Location. You will have to read. I am not going to read it. Read it yourself. Location is superficial fascia. Axillary tail of strength is, it is piercing what fascia? Deep fascia. And that foramen is called, and the portion of the mammary parenchyma that is going to the axilla is called as tail of strength. एक ही की आवाज आ रही है, बाकी की तो आ रही है. Axillary tail of strength. Shape is variable, conical, pyriform, pendulous or flat. Extent second to sixth क्या है? Vertical क्या है? किसको रेफर कर रहे हैं? Second to sixth this को रेफर कर रहे हैं. Then horizontal, lateral border, be specific, lateral border of the sternum to the mid axillary line. Then the deep relation, after the mammary gland, what you will find underneath? You will find the retro-mammary space. You will find pectoralis major muscle, external oblique muscle, serratus exterior muscle, which is covered by the pectoral fascia. Now coming to the structure of the mammary gland, it is covered with the skin. Then in the mammary gland you have stroma. What consists of stroma and what is the parenchyma of the mammary tissue? We have two terms. In the you what is this? Stroma and the parenchyma. The parenchyma is the main glandular portion of the mammary gland, while the stroma is the substance that is holding the parenchyma in position. So what does the stroma consist of? It consists of the fat, it consists of the fibrous tissue. Now the skin is covering the mammary gland and it is having the nipple and areola. So you should know what is nipple and what is areola. So nipple is the projecting portion of the mammary gland through which the milk will be secreted, and then you have the areola, which is the skin around the nipple, right? Now the areola is a circular pigmented area that surrounds the nipple and it has modified sebaceous glands. Now these modified sebaceous glands, they have a role during the lactation that they keep on secreting the oily secretion so that there will be no cracked nipple or the areola. So the oily secretion is the work of the modified sebaceous gland, which can be seen during the lactation over the areola as a tubercle, and these tubercles are called as Montgomery tubercles. So Montgomery tubercles, they are present on the areola, and they are because of the modified sebaceous gland. Now coming to the stroma, which is consisting of fat. So here in this picture, what is the stroma and what is the parenchyma? Green color lobules, these are the parenchyma. Yellow color substance and the white line, these are the stroma. So how do we differentiate between the fat and the fibrous tissue? They are all covered with the fat. The white line shown here, these are the fibrous tissue. The importance of the fibrous tissue is that it is holding the gland to the deep fascia. These are the strands, fibrous strands, and these fibrous strands, they are called as ligament of Cooper. So these are stroma that contains the ligament of Cooper. It is holding the lactiferous duct lobule to the deep fascia, and these ligaments are called as the ligaments of Cooper. You have to remember this name, ligament of Cooper. Then coming to the parenchyma of the mammary gland. So if we see the structure of the mammary gland, it has a radial arranged pattern of the lobule. So it is radially arranged like the spokes of the bicycle. In each of the lobes, we have a lobule. We have multiple lobules in a lobe, and we have around 15 to 20 lobes. So these 15 to 20 lobes, they are containing a smaller structure that is lobule, and lobule is formed of the multiple acini. So acini, this is the secretory unit of any gland. It is folding of the epithelial tissue. So the epithelial tissue folds on itself to form a circular in-section system called as the acini. Those acini combine to form a lobule, and multiple lobules will lead to the formation of a single lobe. Around 15 to 20 lobes will be present. Now the secretion from these lobules will come to the lactiferous duct, which will open onto the nipple. Now before these lactiferous ducts, we have lactiferous sinuses. So sinuses, wherever the term comes sinus, that means there is some dilatation. So if this sinus is present, it means the dilatation is present. So what purpose it is going to solve? During lactation, the milk will be secreted and collected around the lactiferous sinuses. So that is the purpose of the lactiferous sinus presenting before the duct. Now coming to the blood supply and innervation. Are you clear with the structure of the mammary gland, the stroma, parenchyma? Yes? No? Coming to the blood supply and the innervation. So what do you understand by the blood supply? Blood supply includes the arteries. So whenever a question is asked to you, just write about the blood supply of any organ, any structure, you have to write both arterial supply and the venous drainage. Now the arterial supply or venous drainage, a very common point is the arterial supply to any structure will be given through the major arteries that are crossing those areas. So in case of mammary gland, what are the arteries that you suppose will be crossing this area? A triangle line in the adjoining area to the mammary gland. So for the arterial supply, from the internal mammary artery, other arteries are distal thoracic artery, lateral branches of posterior intercostal artery, pectoral branch of thoracoacromial artery, superior thoracic artery. Very tough to remember the name, right? Yes or no? Right. Let's try to make it simple. First, see the picture of the axillary artery. So, axillary artery is particularly formed from the parts are different branches. Now we just have to tell branches. Want to tell you about the main branches that are coming for first and second part, which is supplying the mammary gland. So from the first part, you can see this is the superior thoracic artery, right? From the second part, there is the thoracoacromial branch, which is coming from the second part, and one is the lateral thoracic artery. So first is giving superior thoracic artery, second is giving thoracoacromial artery, and second is also giving lateral thoracic artery. In three of these, one is most important is the lateral thoracic artery, which is giving the major supply to the mammary gland. So it is arising from the axillary artery. First part is superior, second part is lateral, and second part is one more branch, that is the thoracoacromial artery, which is the pectoral branch. Pectoral branch of the thoracoacromial artery is supplying the mammary gland. Now these axillary artery branches, it is supplying the mammary gland. Now coming back to the same picture. So here we have fourth artery, which is the internal mammary artery. Now most of them, they are branches from the axillary artery. One branch is coming from the subclavian artery. Now medial करेंगे इसका subclavian artery और इसका lateral artery, axillary artery. So medially internal mammary artery वहाँ पे towards the lateral side of the sternum. So vertically वहाँ पे subclavian है, medial branch subclavian की होगी. Internal mammary और internal mammary Now the venous drainage. Now the venous drainage is usually at the pattern of the arterial supply. Now the venous drainage, it forms the two circles, that is superficial and the deep vein. The superficial veins, they are draining into the internal thoracic vein, that is towards the medial side. Deep veins, they are draining into the axillary vein and the posterior intercostal vein. So medial side is going the superficial, lateral side is going the deep vein. The point of importance here is with the posterior intercostal vein, they are also taking the venous drainage. So what could be the clinical importance of it? These veins which are draining into the axillary vein and the posterior of the venous drainage in mammary gland. Now coming to the innervation. Do you remember what is the vertical extent of the mammary gland? Check into 6. If you remember this, they are the thoracic spinal nerve. You understand what is spinal nerve? Yes? Loud yes? This is T2 to T6 intercostal nerve, and the branches are anterior and posterior branches. Now these nerve fibers, these are somatosensory in nature. Right? The skin of the mammary gland is supplied by the second to sixth intercostal nerve, which are somatosensory in nature, but the fibers through the nipple and areola, they are the autonomic fibers which are traveling to the areola and nipple, because it is containing the smooth muscle fibers. So they have to contract and relax and with the help of the autonomic nervous system. So it is supplied by the T2 and T6 only, but these are the autonomic fibers which are traversing with the help of the T2 to T6 intercostal nerve. So this is a brief about what we have discussed. Skin, areola, stroma. Do you want to read it once? What does the nipple is containing? It is containing the lenticular duct. The openings of the lenticular duct to open onto the nipple. Areola has the circular pigmented area around the nipple that is containing the sebaceous gland. Then stroma and parenchyma, they are two different things. So confuse them or don't read them. Stroma is different and parenchyma is different. So stroma is the supporting framework and parenchyma is the glandular tissue. Blood supply, lateral thoracic, superior thoracic and thoracoacromial. They are the branches from the axillary artery. Internal mammary is the branch from the subclavian artery. Posterior intercostal artery is the artery of the intercostal space. Nerve supply is T2 to T6 intercostal nerve. Now coming to the most important part, that is the lymphatic drainage of the breast. So these are the different names that you have written here. These all group of lymph nodes that are draining the lymphatic drainage of the breast. So why it is very important to know about the lymphatic drainage? Because the metastatic carcinoma spreads through these roots only. So you should know what are the important lymph nodes here. So I just read out the these. There is a broader group of lymph nodes: subdiaphragmatic, subperitoneal lymph section, posterior intercostal node, internal mammary lymph node, axillary lymph node. Axillary lymph node doesn't end up as a single axillary lymph node. There are multiple group of lymph nodes that are present in the axilla. Let's see what are the different group of lymph nodes that are present. They are arranged according to the fold and the effect and duty of the axilla. So the anterior group of lymph nodes, they are arranged on the anterior fold of the axilla. So these are called as anterior or the pectoral group. Then you have posterior, which is on the posterior wall of the axilla. Then we have lateral group, which is on the lateral wall of the axilla. Central group at the base of the axilla, and the apical group that is on the apex of the axilla. So these are in relation to the apex, base and the boundaries of the axilla. So these are the anterior group, posterior group, lateral, central and apical. You should know them and you should know where they are present. Now for the lymphatic, there are has a widespread lymphatic drainage. Even you can see in this picture that it is going towards the medial side, it is exchanging towards from both the sides, then it is going laterally, then it is going in the abdomen. So it is a widespread lymphatic drainage. So the mammary gland is drained through the superficial lymphatic and the deep lymphatic. The superficial lymphatic drainage is just draining the skin of the mammary gland, leaving the areola and the leaf. While the deep lymphatic, they will drain the whole of the parenchyma. So the major responsibility comes to the deep lymphatic, that is and the underneath the areola, what you can find is the subalveolar canthus of cells. These group of lymph nodes, they are draining into the axillary group of lymph nodes back to the axillary axillary. Now the major portion, that is the deep lymphatic, it is going from the medial side, from the lateral side, towards the medial side. Now you remember that internal mammary and artery was present here. Internal mammary vein was present here. Now the internal mammary group of lymph nodes are also present on the lateral border of the cell. So medial side is draining into the internal mammary group of lymph nodes. Then your upper part of the gland is draining into the apical group. So this is the upper part of the mammary gland, which is draining into the apical group of lymph nodes. Lateral side is draining into the pectoral group of lymph nodes, and they will finally drain into the apical group of. And the internal mammary lymph nodes, they are also communicating from the opposite side of the gland. You have to remember that 75% goes to the pectoral, that is the medial group of axillary lymph nodes. 20% goes to the paracell. So which one is the 75%? This is the 20%. And 5% is going to the intercostal. Now coming back to the same picture, here you have a continuation downwards also to the subperitoneal and subdiaphragmatic lymph nodes. So if there is a manifestation from the mammary tissue, it can go to the subperitoneal, subdiaphragmatic lymph nodes. So that will lead to the secondary tumor. So primary tumor is in the mammary gland. Other tumors, they will be present in the other organs, like if they lead to the OP. So that is the secondary tumor that is happening because of the primary tumor in the mammary gland. That is called as Krukenberg tumor. Now there is one more division of the lymph node, that is called as level 1, level 2 and level 3. So what person level 1, level 2 and level 3 is more important rather than 75%, 20% and 5%. So for the level 1, 2 and 3, they say low lymph node involvement, mid group lymph involvement or the apical group lymph involvement. Like the axillary artery, you have 3 parts in relation to the pectoralis minor. Similarly, the group of lymph nodes, they are divided into level 1 and 2. Axillary artery comes from the medial side, 1, 2 and 3. Level of lymph node is from the lateral side to the medial side, level 1, level 2 and level 3. Rather than 3 to 1 or 1 to 3, depending on the axillary artery or level 1 to 3 of lymph node. So pectoralis minor की relation में that one which is lying below the minor is the level 1, lying behind the pectoralis minor or beneath the pectoralis minor is level 2, and level 3 is the apical, that is the upper border of the pectoralis minor. This is the summary about the lymphatic drainage of the breast. The lymph nodes that are involved in the mammary gland, they are axillary group of lymph nodes, internal mammary group of lymph nodes, ostia intercostal, subdiaphragmatic, subperitoneal, and one is the Rotter's lymph node. The Rotter group of lymph nodes, this is the pectoral or interpectoral group of lymph nodes that is sandwiched between the pectoralis minor and the major muscle. These also drain the some part of the mammary gland. You should know what is the rotor lymph node. These are the interpectoral lymph nodes. Now coming to the clinical picture, what is the applied aspects of the mammary gland? If they ask you, what you can write. One is the pseudo-orange appearance of the skin that occurs in the metastatic carcinoma. One is the tumor. We have just discussed that the cancer cells, they migrate from the primary side to the secondary side, that is the ovary. When they reach ovary and they cause the tumor of the ovary, they are called as the Krukenberg tumor. This is the secondary tumor of the ovary, which is called as the Krukenberg tumor. First thing, that is the purely orange appearance of the skin. Purely orange appearance of the skin is, you have seen the orange peak. There is lot of dots on the skin of the orange. So when the patient is suffering from the carcinoma, this picture is of the skin of the mammary gland, where the underlying tissue is involved in the carcinoma. So why this occurs? Can anybody explain me? So it is written over here. You know that the ligament of Cooper is holding the rescue after the parenchyma, that is the glandular tissue of the mammary gland, is folded onto the tissue of the head of the ligament of Cooper. So it is holding this. So if the fibrosis of this ligament occurs, so what it will happen? What will happen? It will retract back, and when there is metastatic, there is a carcinoma in this area, that is the glandular tissue and stoma, this will allow the skin to swell because there is a lot of edema in the underlying tissue. So if it will do one thing is causing the swelling, and another thing is retracting it back to the skin. So what will happen? It will lead to the picture that we show you, as a lot of pores are there on the skin. So that pores can be prevent swelling. Because of the retraction of the ligament of the Cooper. That leads to the purely orange appearance, and here the shortening of the ligament of Cooper occurs because there is the infiltration of the tissue, that is ligament of Cooper. Now in case of cancerous growth, there can be the retraction of the skin because of the fibrosis of this, or there can be retraction of the nipple because the lactiferous ducts are involved. Now the other clinical pictures of the mammary gland, how the mammary gland develops during the intrauterine life. So during the intrauterine life, there is a mammary gland from the axilla to the groin. So this is present in the early phase of the birth, early phase of intrauterine life, but with time in humans, this goes off only in the pectoral region, the mammary gland. We have seen lower animals, they have multiple mammary glands. So similar development occurs in the lower animals, but this line, which is called as the middle line of Schultz, this doesn't disappear in the lower animals, but it disappears in the human, only remaining in the pectoral region. A point of telling you this is, there are different congenital malformations that are related to the mammary gland. One is athelia, which is related to the nipple. If there is absence of nipple, it is called as athelia. If there are more than one nipple, they are called as the supernumerary nipples, which is called as polythelia. Then there is a condition amesia, where the absence of mammary gland is there. Polymesia can be a condition where the multiple supernumerary mammary glands are present. Then patient can also, or newborns can also present with the inverted or retracted nipples, because the underlying mesenchyme, when you will study the embryology, you will know what is the term mesenchyme is. It is the parenchyma, because of whose proliferation any growth or any substance that increases. So that mesenchyme is missing in the nipples, so that those nipples are called as inverted or retracted nipples. Then their patients can present as gynecomastia. I guess you all know what is gynecomastia. And what is mastectomy? Partial or complete removal of the mammary gland that happens during the breast carcinomas. And one more thing of importance is that there is a radial pattern of arrangement of the lobules in the mammary gland. So for any person, it is important to know the structure that they are radially arranged. So how they will take the incision. कैसा incision लेना चाहिए. So not to damage the underlying structure. Radial incisions are taken so as to avoid the damage to the underlying tissue. So that completes your mammary gland with the clinical importance. So we have read about the location, extent, duration, blood supply, lymphatics, and the applied part of mammary gland. So try to go through this topic. If you want to ask me, you can ask me right now or later on. Go to the topic, you have to draw the diagram. Don't forget to exercise about the diagram. Because when exam is the diagram, not to the mammary gland, absolutely you have to draw the diagram. Anything you want to ask?